Live?
Yeah.
All right, Shalom.
Shalom.
We want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasha Allah, and a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath who are believing this word, and all truth and its sincerity. Yahweh is the name of the one they ignorantly call God. Yahweh Shai is the name of the one they ignorantly call Jesus. Bahashim is in the name. Rakah is spirit. Kodash is holy. Akyam is brothers. Akwath is sisters. Shalom means peace. And Yasha Allah is Israel in the ancient Paleo Hebrew. And through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shai, we're going to go into a lesson through the spirit based on the conversation we were having before the camera cut on, all right, about patience, all right, and remaining and staying in that consistency and that patience through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shai. Because we're in a time period where a lot of things are happening around the earth, and it's easy to be taken off the path, so to speak. You know, to lose patience. All right, even though with everything that's happening in the earth through the spirit, according to prophecy, you still have jakes that are easily tossed to and fro, so to speak. And that's why keeping the main thing is so important, and remaining, staying in that patience through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shai. You got it, Doc.
I have the
You got it, bro.
I got the definition for consistency from Google. It says conformity in the application of something, typically that which is necessary for the sake of logic, accuracy, or fairness. And the word conformity, when you get into it, means compliance with standards, rules, or laws. All right, and what we're going to go into tonight through the Spirit, man, is the importance of staying consistent, all right, in our patience. And our patience as we wait for the prophecies to come to pass, you know, and as we wait for our Lord to return, it's important that we stay consistent, all right, consistent on the things that we've been taught and been assured of. If I get this.
Got it.
This is 2 Timothy, Thessalonians chapter 2. I mean, it's like, this is 2 Timothy. Second Timothy chapter 3, verse 14. It says, 13. But evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. But continue thou in the things which thou hast learned and hast been assured of, knowing of whom thou hast learned them.
Hey, because a lot of these new doctrines that have come up as of late was not the doctrine that these guys woke up on. When you deal with the new covenant, which is the new flavor of the wheat, with Jake finding all these different things to argue about, with everything that's going on in the earth, these are doctrines that evil men just waxing worse and worse. These are doctrines that are easy to break down with milk scriptures. But it goes into losing patience. And a lot of times what's happening is guys are losing patience. And instead of them admitting that they're losing patience and being honest about it, they're finding some other excuse for why the truth ain't the truth no more. And that's why being consistent and patient is important, because you have to remember the main thing. Keeping the main thing, the main thing. When you woke up to this truth, these doctrines was not what woke you up. Your concern was salvation. And somehow along the path, you got taken off that path. And that's why the scriptures talk about being diligent and holding fast to what you've learned. You got it, Doug.
That was it on that one.
Kind of real quick, this is Colossians chapter 3 and verse 12. And it reads,
Hey, Jake is you know, we all ready for Yahweh Shai to return. You know, brothers ready to get redeemed, to get salvation. But you need to stay focused on the teaching, man. That's what we need to stay focused on, teaching. We're supposed to be patient. This is a patient race. It's taking Hebrews 12. And we need to focus on teaching. The sheep need to be fed, man. As it tell you in Revelation 17 and 17, until the words of the Lord shall be fulfilled, man. And Jake still being reactivated to the truth. But you got Jake losing patience because they ready for, you know, we ready for to be redeemed, man. Lord willing. We ready for salvation. We tired of this place. But a lot of jakes is losing patience behind that, man, and not focus on it's still work that need to be done. The harvest is plenteous, but the labors are few, man. So focus on teaching. You got it.
Real quick, since you said that, if we can get Galatians the 6th chapter, I want to grab this real quick. This is 2 Thessalonians 2:15. Therefore, brethren, stand fast and hold the traditions which ye have been taught, whether by word or our epistle. And keeping that charge is extremely important through the Spirit. You know, and that's why that phrase always sticks with me. Keeping the main thing. Because when the brother brought out this analogy before the camera came on. Well, when you working and you constantly looking at the clock, time slow down. But when you focused on the work, things move forward quicker. And before you know it, it's time for you to clock out.
Right.
So you got those jakes that try to skate by and they just watch the clock and time goes slower for them. And that's ultimately why you lose patience, because
Right.
you're staring at the clock.
Right.
But when you're looking at the prophecies come together, when you're learning about how the Lord is putting these prophecies together, it becomes more occupied in prophecy, so much so that you lose track of time, so to speak.
Right.
Say our salvation is nearer than we believe.
Right.
How does that happen? Because you looking at prophecy, you watching these things in great detail, and before you know it, it's time to go home, Lord
Right.
willing.
You know, we were saying this last night, man, that we don't know what year we in, man.
Right.
We under this devil's calendar, which is off. We don't know what year we in. But the Lord said, you shall know by the signs, man, the signs of the times, by the tokens. And we see the prophecies playing out. We was going to last night how it was in one day was over 39 earthquakes, man. Just in one day alone. Well, the Lord say, earthquakes shall be in diverse places. It say uproars of the people in 2 Ezra 9. Well, when you look at, when you go to the news, if you go to Al Jazeera and look at what's going on in Colombia, in Cuba, Puerto Rico, Haiti, Chile, that's Jacob uproars, man. All you gotta do is go watch the world news. These things is happening. We ain't in 2023, man, according to the Lord, man, because Esau calendar is off, man. We don't know where we at. But we know by the signs of the time, man. But Jake losing patience by watching the clock, man.
Right.
And we're further along in prophecy than we understand.
Right.
You know, Jake thinks, you know, when you look at the MOTB, it seems like it's a far ways away. When you look at the intricate details and how the Lord is engineering things within society, the MOTB is like right around the corner. The infrastructure is set in place. World War III, mainstream media. World War III is on mainstream media. And the way that the Lord is orchestrating World War III, we can tell that it's right around the corner. It may seem like it's a far ways off if you're not paying attention to the details,
Right.
into the prophecies that the Lord, and the little intricate details that the Lord gave us in the scriptures to look for. You know, it's like
real quick, the Lord say, being circumspect.
Mhm.
That's watching details. You got it.
And just like the brother goes into, you know, when you watching that clock, what you do to yourself is psych yourself out.
Mm-hmm.
When you constantly watching the clock, you psyching yourself out. I got 3 more hours. Then that 3 more hours, you keep watching the clock, it turns into 6 more hours.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, man, and then you psych yourself, you burn yourself out. That's why it's important, like the brother said, to stay consistent on what our mission is. You know, inconsistency and this the inability to look at the details is tactics of self-destruction. You know, that's why it's important to stay consistent on the mission. What are we supposed to be doing right now? What did the Lord command us to do right now?
Feed the sheep, man.
And occupy till He comes.
Teaching, man. That's all you need to worry about is teaching, man. Teaching sound doctrine. That's all you need to worry about, man. Don't have your mind on worried about the crown and the perks that come with the kingdom of heaven, man. What about right now, which is teaching, man? Stop watching the clock, because you're gonna lose patience. You got it, right?
You got Galatians 6 out.
You want verse 9?
Verse 1.
Oh,
But if you want to touch 9 too, yeah.
come. So Galatians 6:1, brethren, if a man be overtaken in in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such as one in the spirit of meekness.
And because what the brother was bringing out was that when you understand this truth to a certain degree, now you're waiting for prophecy to come about, and it's easy to lose sight of the fact that his brethren coming under you, that everything is new for them.
Right.
The milk, everything is new for them. And as a laborer through the Spirit, you have to restore such, and one, considering yourself. You know, when we talk about how, you know, there was a point where our apostles, you know, and brothers in the year 2000, a lot of Israelites fell out because at the year 2000 they lost patience. If the Lord would have came back in the year 2000, we wouldn't even be here. So even though we're in 2023 and they feel like the Lord ain't came quick enough, it's brothers and sisters that's just waking up. And everything is completely new to them.
Mm-hmm.
In the midst of the Lord bringing about World War III and the MOTB, they're just waking up to who they are as a nation of people. And that's why the scriptures talk about the harvest being plenteous, but the laborers being few. And when you're focused on that part of the mission, before you know it, it's time to go home. Lord willing, we be a part of that number. But until then, this is the mission that's at hand.
And I was making a point too also before we started. As we read last night at camp, Ephesians 4, man, it say that we all gotta be to the full measure of the stature of Yahushua, man. So until that happens, the words of the Lord ain't gonna be fulfilled, man, which is the elect being sealed. We all gotta come on the level. And I was saying this, we got just us as in the camp. We got 6 brothers that standing outside the camp. And they ain't at the point where we at. The brothers watching, that's standing at the camp with us every Saturday. We got 6 brothers that come out. They not at the level where we at. And we ain't even on no level. We ain't at the level of our elders, elder bishops. We ain't there. And ones that's coming in new, they ain't there. The scripture said we all gotta be at their level, man. So, stop focusing, stop worrying about the return of the Lord and focus on teaching, man. Cause you focus on, we all ready to go. We tired. But if you keep worrying, focusing on Yahushua returning, that's you watching the clock, man. Well, the flock need to be fed, so focus on teaching. That's what you need to focus on. Teaching sound doctrine, man. Feeding the sheep. And this supposed to be your first love. It's supposed to be a passion to teach, man. You got it.
So again, Galatians 6:1. Brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such in one in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted.
That's why we here, man. To restore the remnant of Israel, man. Lord willing. We just messengers. The Lord is we just plant the seed and put water on it. The Lord get the increase. You got it.
Verse 2. Bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Hamashiach.
Yeah, because while you waiting on the Lord to come back, the flock has to be built up.
Right.
The ministry was designed to edify, which is to build up the spirits of the Lord's flock. And even though you've understood the milk to a certain degree, it's new to somebody else.
Right.
That's why brothers go into the fact that your video may have 10 views. But that may be one lamb, one sheep of the Lord's pasture that got fed from that got built up. It may have been 2 or 3 sentences in that 10-minute video that built up one of the sheep. If you've done it to these little ones, you've done it to me, like the Lord said.
Mm-hmm.
And when you occupied in that type of when you're occupied in that mission, then you don't lose hope, because what happens is when Jake fall out, they lose hope, they lose patience, and they get so tempted by the things of the world that they cast off their hope and their confidence, which is in Yahweh Shah. Real quick, I wanted to get this. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 2. And I want to get this in the GNT, which is a Good News translation, but I'm gonna read it in the normal, in the KJV 1611. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 2 and verse 14. You know, I'll start at 13. I'll start at 12. Woe be to fearful hearts and faint hands, and the sinner that goeth two ways. Woe unto him that is faint-hearted, for he believeth not, therefore shall he not be defended. Woe unto you that have lost patience, and what will ye do when the Lord shall visit you? Now, when we start in that same chapter in the GNT, I'll start at verse 12. It says this, but those who lose their nerve are doomed, all those sinners who try to have it both ways. Doom is sure to come for those who lose their courage. They have no faith, and so they will have no protection. Doom is sure to come for those who lose their hope. What will they do when the Lord comes to judge them? Because ultimately that's what happens. The faith, the patience, the confidence. Jake loses that hope in Yahweh Shema Shai, and then they just cast off their crown. That's why the scriptures say, hold fast to your crown. Hold fast that no man take thy crown. Because it's ultimately been given to you, but with patience you have to wait for it to manifest in the physical. And what happens is Jake loses that faith. That's why a lot of Jakes fell out in the year 2000, because they only had enough faith to believe that all they had to do was make it to the year 2000. And they didn't consider the whole race.
Right.
They were sprinting to the year 2000, and then when they got there and they found out they still had to labor, they lost hope.
Yeah.
They lost their patience. That's why it's not, the scriptures talk about the race not being given to the swift. It's not given to the one who run it fast in the first quarter. It's the one who runs the distance. Yahweh Shah talks about those that endure unto the end. And keeping the main thing at the forefront of your mind is what's going to keep you locked into that.
Yep. Hey, and that's feeding the sheep, man.
Yep.
This is Hebrews 12:1. Wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight. Let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doeth so easily beset us. And the 2 Corinthians 14, starting at verse 13, it said, put off the weak nature, cast off the burdens of men. It say, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which do so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto Yahushua, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross.
Hey, if I may say this, when you're running a race, consistency is key.
Right.
You have to keep the same pace, you have to keep
Breathing.
the same motion, the same breathing. And that's how you endure and finish out that race, by keeping consistency. And that's why it says in our patience, run this race in our patience.
Right.
And in our patience, we have to run this race with a level of consistency. And what we've been taught, what we've been assured of, the things that we know to be true, the standard that we know to be true, which is like the brother said, teaching, staying occupied in prophecy, all right, doing our due diligence, studying, reading, praying, all right, going to camp, all right, doing our lessons. These things that we know are building blocks to this faith of ours, man.
Mm-hmm.
These things we know, as long as we're consistent on, it'll lead us to the end of this race, Lord willing.
Like you said earlier about Jake getting burnt out, because just like a race, like the brothers were saying, you got to pace yourself. If you try to sprint through that, you're going to burn yourself out.
Right.
That's a beautiful point, because you got to know your pace.
Right.
And if you don't know your rhythm, you could try to mimic somebody else's rhythm and lose your own, and you burn out because that's not your pace.
Right.
You have to find your pace in this truth through the spirit of Payah Bashim Shai, and that goes into knowing your own spirit. Because every brother has a different measure, every brother has different talents, but you're running this race through the spirit of Payah Bashim Shai for the distance, not for the if I just the next 5 years. Of course, we would love for the Lord to come this year.
Right. Lord willing.
But we have to occupy until the Lord comes. The mission is still a mission, regardless of how you feel about it. The mission is still a mission. And we have to, with patience, run that race.
Right. Again, it say Hebrews 12:1, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us. And real quick, I want to get Luke 12 and 35, it reads this. Let your loins be girded about and your lights burning. And I was saying earlier, hey, remember when you first got that first spark? Like I was talking about growing up in the country, Mississippi. You know, you like the oven on a gas stove, right? Then you can turn it up higher or lower or whatever. But you got that first spark, right? And then over time, your flame got bigger. It grew, right? Now you're on fire, like Apostle always say, man. So it say again, let your loins be girded about and your lights burning.
Hey, and how how you kindle a bigger fire? You gotta blow on it consistently.
Right. Right.
Not too much, not too little.
Right.
And eventually
With
that
patience,
flame.
right. Calm, still, yeah.
Yeah.
And that come from studying, watching video, watching our apostles, our elder bishops, our spiritual fathers and spiritual uncles, and growing, man. Teaching, eating the roll. Stop watching the clock, man. It reads, let your loins be girded about and your lights burning, and ye yourselves like unto men that wait for their Lord when he will return from the wedding, that when he cometh and knocketh, they may open unto him immediately. So you're supposed to be watching, but don't watch the clock, man. Watch the prophecy that's playing out. That's better than watching the clock. Because watching the clock, you wait on your house to return. Well, the prophecy's playing out. Is you watching the prophecies? Is you telling the sheep that, oh, this prophecy is happening right now? Hey, as the apostle said, hey, Davos is going down this week, starting tomorrow, man. And as Apostle House said, you know they finna mention about the MOTB.
Yep.
So it say verse 37, blessed are those servants, whom the Lord when he cometh shall find watching. Verily I say unto you, that he shall gird himself and make them to sit down to meat, and will come forth and serve them.
And that goes also into, not putting so much thought into this life.
Right.
Taking that weight off of you of worrying about things you can't control.
Mm-hmm.
Because that plays into you losing patience, because the affairs of this world start to get under your skin, and then you forget the mission at hand.
The burdens of man, the weak natures, man.
That whatever's going on through the spirit, you're gonna have trouble in the flesh. We know that. That's a part of it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, through the spirit, it's all meant for you to bring something to the flock. That experience is meant for you to do a lesson on it, to understand a certain experience so that the next brother can hear your experience and avoid certain things. All of that's meant to build up the flock. Because again, the harvest is plenteous, but the laborers are few. And all of these things are happening through the spirit so that we can keep our eye on that prize. That we're fighting for an incorruptible crown.
Right.
And that's going to take that kind of consistency, like the brother talked about, blowing on that fire. Having that consistency through the spirit and remembering, all right, what the mission is right now. We understand the kingdom of heaven is at hand. We understand that in the kingdom we're going to have certain things. But what's the mission right now?
Right.
And it's to be occupied in prophecy, to understand prophecy, to go into certain things and learn about certain things so that you can bring it out with a level of understanding. So that the flock can understand it. Lord, will we be a part of that number? That's what we're set up to do.
Right.
To digest what's going on in the world through the scriptures and give it to the flock, to feed them.
Hey, we were saying this last night too, because all these redacteds and Glenn Becks, hey, they bring out heavy stuff, man, of what's going on with the elites in the world. But they don't know how to filter it through the scriptures, man.
Right.
They don't know how, that's not their lot, man. That lot is for the prophets, man, the servants of the Lord. They can bring out what's this guy? Double 7, Glenn Beck, redacted. These guys, they bring out a lot of information, man. But they don't know how to filter it through the scriptures, man. That's not their job.
Yeah.
That's the servant's job to do that, man. So it says Luke 12:38, and if he shall come in the second watch, or come in the third watch, and find them so, blessed are those servants. And this know that if the good man of the house have known what hour the thief will come, he will have watched and not suffer his house to be broken through. Hey, and the Lord is coming like a thief in the night, man. So while you watching the clock, the prophecy playing out, man. Is you one of the sheep of the prophecies? It say, last piece I want to get, this is verse 40. Be ye therefore ready also, for the Son of Man cometh at an hour when you think not. He ain't gonna, you watching the clock for nothing, man.
Yeah, it's still coming. You can't see it. You ain't gonna see it coming. That's, yeah. Because real quick, this is Isaiah 62:6. In the NLT it says, O Jerusalem, I have posted watchmen on your walls. They will pray day and night continually. Take no rest, all you who pray to the Lord. Now I bring that out as an example that a watchman can't be worried about what time they're getting off.
Right.
You on the wall,
Right, bro.
and you looking like you thinking about the leaks and the coffee and the wine you're gonna drink when you get off.
Yeah.
And if you slip, the whole town won't suffer.
Right, bro.
I got
If the prophecies are starting to play out and you ain't able to, and you're not looking and seeing it coming and able to digest it through the spirit and feed it to the flock, you more worried about getting off.
Mm-hmm.
Which the Lord set up watchmen for that reason.
Right.
To see what's going on. The Lord won't come in the hour when we think. The scripture said our salvation is nearer than we believe, and you're watching every day, and it's still nearer than you believe.
Mm-hmm.
So you're only psyching yourself out when you watch the clock instead of doing what the Lord put in front of us. You got that.
That's cold too. Cause Jake, like you said, Jake was ready to get off and go home. We all ready to go home.
We all want that. We all want rest. Scriptures talk about us laboring to enter into that rest.
Right.
Because we all are, the scriptures talk about it wearing out the saints. That's the ones who are grieved with everything that they see through the spirit, and they hasten in the day.
Right.
Because 2/3 ain't grieved. They live in this world of ignorance where they willfully ignorant and they just ignore the word of the Lord until it happens. The ones who know, we wait for the Lord like, man. And it's going to be them times in the flesh where it feel like it hurt and it's going to be them moments. You got to learn how to fight through that shit.
It's gonna be a lot of them moments. Hey, and man, listen, man. Yahweh said he ain't gonna drink wine until he let with him in the kingdom, man. So we ready to go home too. Lord willing, we be a part of that number.
Bro, big bro suffered, man.
Right.
Real shit. Our Lord suffered, man. Our situation is tough, but it ain't tough like that one.
Right.
It ain't the same cup. That's why Paul talked about you have not resisted unto blood.
Right.
And Yahweh Shai's yoke is easy and his burden is light. For what reason? Because this is all we have to do. The Lord cleared, the heavy lifting has been done so that you can watch and look at the tokens and give it to the flock who just waking up. They just waking up and finding out they're Israelite. They finding out that the MOTB is right around the corner and they need to be fed. And the Lord put your life in a certain place, in a certain scenario, so that you can give them a particular meat for a particular sheep in the flock.
Yep.
That's why you only get 10 videos. That's sniping. The Lord only needed you to touch 10 souls.
Yeah.
So most of them getting marked, and a very few of them, it's for them to be fed.
Yep.
And your whole struggle, your whole last month may have been for 2 lessons that woke up the flock. And only a minute out of that lesson that they needed to hear to be, but that as a watchman, that's your job.
Right.
And until Yahweh shall get back, this is the mission. This is the mission, to expand the talents. We all here as a body to bring our talents to the table, work out our own salvation, that Lord willing our talents will abound.
Yep.
Until Yahweh shall get back, that's the mission.
You got it, love.
This is Luke 19 and verse 13. It says, and he called his 12, and he said, therefore, a certain nobleman went into a far country to receive for himself a kingdom and to return. And he called his 10 servants and delivered them 10 pounds and said unto them, occupy till I come. And one of the things that, just as a small analogy, one of the things that helps you get through the job is not watching the clock, but it's when you're doing work. You find the days go by quicker when you actually got your hands on something and you occupied in your work. Next thing you know, you look up, you only got 30 minutes left. You're just like, damn, where did the day go?
Right.
Right. That's the same thing with Yahweh Shai and his return. As we look for these prophecies and we stay occupied in prophecy and our mission and teaching, before we know it, Yahweh Shai is going to be right there. Before we know it, the MOTB is going to be right here. Before we know it, World War III is going to be kicking off.
Right.
But it's a matter of us staying occupied until the Lord comes.
Hey, when you in that, man, Lord, please, where you at? Every day, man, Lord, please, come back. Hey, the Lord know, man. He said he know, man. He know. We all tired, man. We ready to go, man. But it's others that's coming in, that's being reactivated, man.
You need to know.
They need to eat, man. That's what the Lord told Peter 3 times. Feed my sheep, man.
Right, because our job is to be what? Servants. And we understand that with this ministry that we've been given, the portion that we've been given, it's not for us ourselves. This is about a body.
Right.
And just like the brothers is going into, our mission, brothers can get 10 views of video, right? But our mission is so that we can build up the next brother. The scriptures say the labor is plenteous, but the laborers are few.
The harvest.
Harvest is plenteous, but the laborers are few.
Right.
And there's a lot of new sheep coming into the ministry that need to hear and need to be built up the same way that you wish you would have been built up.
Right.
And you gain certain experiences so that you're able to tell the next brother and guide the next brother through a video that you may have done or through something you may have experienced. And that helps to bring the sheep, the flock, to the fullness, to the full measure of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua.
We gotta get it. We gotta read that too. And another point I'll make in Acts 1:6, when Peter the apostle asked Yahushua, was he about to restore the kingdom of heaven to Israel? He said it wasn't for them to know at that time, man. Don't worry about when, man. Just focus on feeding the sheep, man. Eating the roll, teaching sound doctrine, man. That's it. It's a simple mission, man. Don't worry about it, man.
Hey, you know, you hear about a lot of men falling out about that 2000 doctrine because they're wondering about the future. And the present became a burden unto them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like they're so worried about what's ahead
Right.
that what's present is like,
Point, bro.
it's too much. You know, I just can't do this no more.
Yeah.
You psyche yourself out, you burn yourself out that way. When you too focus on the future, that's why the scriptures say to take no thought for tomorrow.
Right.
For tomorrow, take thought for us.
Beautiful. And when Yahushua did return, hey, that was a sifting, man.
Yeah.
That was a sifter, man.
Yeah.
And the Lord is always sifting. You got it.
Yeah, I got two. One, to land back on what you said earlier about how pretty much the crown has already been fronted to us. It's just a matter of this
Right.
playing out. So 1 Corinthians 15, starting 57. But thanks be to God, which giveth us the victory through our Lord Yahushua HaMashiach. So again, we already got the victory, Lord, one word that number.
Right. It said Revelation 3:11. Hold on to that which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. The crown is already laid up, man. You got it.
It says, therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord.
And unmovable is not being tossed to and fro by every wind of doctrine, man.
Like when you really understand from what the Lord is actually doing, you notice that things like this always pop up.
Right.
New covenant, 2/3 not gonna be back in the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah,
We done
what
heard
you
it
is
all.
sin.
The MOTB is sin. You hear all of these things. It really is a sift. It's something that's thrown out there to see if it's gonna move you
Yep.
from what you've learned and what you woke up on.
From standing firm, man.
You wake up here, and then somehow you end up tossed to and fro.
Yep.
And it's because you losing patience, and this was the excuse. Because when you look at these wayward doctrines, it's easy to cut. It's pure. It's easy to see the fallacy in it. It's easy to see the flaw in the argument. But it ain't even about the point that they're trying to make. That's just something that they throw out there as an excuse to say that this ain't the truth.
Yeah.
Because ultimately they lost patience and they don't want to admit that. That's why keeping the main thing at the forefront is extremely important. Being occupied in prophecy is extremely important. Because when you look at prophecy and how it plays out, you realize that no matter how long you think it might take, you're still closer than you've ever been. But when you lose sight of prophecy, you just continue in small matters over and over and over. Because there's always going to be a small matter. It's always going to be like that. Some agitation, some Jake with some newfound he got the fountain of youth now. Now he know more than everybody, and he come out with some doctrine that nobody heard of, just to take away those who are gonna be moved, tossed to and fro anyway.
Looking for reasons not to believe.
Right. That's yep.
Yep. That sum it up.
It's a lot. Hold that. Let me read this real quick. Because that coming from by the cunning craftiness of men.
Yep.
This is Ephesians 4:11. And he gave some apostles and some prophets and some evangelists and some pastors and teachers for the perfecting of the saints, for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of Mashiach, till we all come in the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of power, unto a perfect man or woman, unto the measure of the full stature of the fullness of a Mashiach, that we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro, and carried about with every wind of doctrine. You got Jake still stuck on the full moon.
Right.
The scriptures are playing about the new moon.
In the midst of all this prophecy. And it show you that there's all, the Lord set it up that way. The deceiver
Right.
and the deceiver belongs to the Lord.
Right.
And it always happens. It's always a flavor of the week. It's always some new guy that done popped up that now he got the breakdown. And they gonna challenge what the Lord has already established.
Already
That's
established.
always gonna happen. That's a
Yep.
part of the mission.
Yep.
But it's set up like that for those jakes who lose patience and don't want to admit it.
Right.
So then they go to, well, I believe that we in the new covenant, and it's really just a way for them to duck their taco and get up out of here.
It's like they there's a wrench that was thrown in their consistency. And now instead of having the same routine, going through the same routine, they found some other way to go about,
Right.
another way to go about the kingdom. And now that's the new regimen they own, and now that's what they're gonna follow. That's not what's been set up, and that's not how we're gonna reach the goal that we're set out to reach, man.
Right. And if you still at the point talking about how we know these are the men of the Lord, hey, the Lord done bugged you out already, man.
You take faith.
Yup.
And it's simple. It really, when you look at it, what the Lord told us to do and how the Lord told us to live and the standard the Lord gave us, it's really simple.
Simple, bro.
What a lot of men like to do is overcomplicate things.
That's
Just
it.
like Esau, they like to overcomplicate things to the point where it's impossible. Everything's impossible. Now you question everything.
Right.
And
Hey, that's Salakia. You got it.
I was just gonna say the scriptures talk about the simplicity in Hamashiach.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So again, back in Ephesians 4:14, it reads, that we henceforth be no more children tossed to and fro, and carried about with every wind of doctrine, by a sleight of men and cunning craftiness, whereby they lie in wait to deceive. And Ox mentioned about being established, right? In Hebrews 13, it says this, verse 5, be not carried about, Hebrews 13:9, be not carried about with divers and strange doctrines, for it is a good thing that the heart, meaning your mind, be established with grace.
Hey, you didn't wake up on these wayward doctrines.
Right.
When you heard the truth and you were called into this truth, it wasn't on these wayward doctrines.
Right.
What did that tell you about these doctrines? They're not bringing forth fruit. These are doctrines that are set up to cast those who are going to be cast anyway.
Look, this is the cold part. It say, for it is a good thing that the heart, which is your mind, be established with grace, not with meats, which have not profited them that have been occupied therein. These meats is talking about the heavier scriptures. We came in under the milk,
Yep, the basics.
the basics.
That scriptures talk about not, going above your strength.
Right.
Look at it right here.
You're right.
This is us.
Before you get that on, Salakia, the word slight or slate in Ephesians, the 4th chapter, is kuba'ah. And it says dice playing. It says metaphorically, the deception of men. Because dice players sometimes cheated and defrauded their fellow players. So what happens is they lost patience, but they don't want to admit it because they want to still be the hero in their movie. So what they say is that I'm leaving because I don't believe King Masha is King David. Or we in the new covenant right now, and I don't believe that we in grace. Instead of being like, I lost patience, they do that, and what they do is they defraud everybody that follow after them. Because they themselves know that it wasn't because of this. It was because they lost patience. But they're not telling none of the people that's following them that. They tell them that it was about this. This why, even though I done been in the truth this long, I left because of this. And it's really because they lost patience. And how do you lose patience? Because you take your eye off the prize. You take your eye off the mission, and you get distracted and cast away with these sleights of men. The guys that make it look good on camera, that put these festivals together, that look good to the eyes, and then you lose sight of the mission, being occupied in prophecy.
And to tell you in Luke 9:62, hey, when you put your hand on the plow, man, you're supposed to have tunnel vision. You driving straight. If you happen to look back, the plow might go off. It's going to go off track, man. The odds might go off. You got to stay focused, man.
I got something for you.
Yep.
This is the definition of sleight of hand. When the brother brought that out, it just came to mind about how it's trick. Like, that's exactly what's happening. This is the definition of sleight of hand off Google. It says skillful deception. And what a lot of men have been able to do is skillful. Yeah, because when you've been in the truth and you've gathered some knowledge, right? It's easy to come up with something that you know subjects question.
Right.
So then you could be like, well, what about this?
A stumbling block.
It's a stumbling block.
And you're not supposed to cast a stumbling block. And that's the issue. That these guys, they're not honest enough to say they lost patience. So they come up with these excuses. And these excuses become cunning, crafty deceptions that younger jakes who are not skilled yet get cast into.
Right. Listen to this. Romans 16:17. Now I beseech you, brethren, mark them which cause divisions,
Right.
in offenses contrary to the doctrine, which ye have learned, and avoid them. For they that are such serve not our Lord Yahushua Mashiach, but their own belly, which could be simply as losing patience, but their own belly, and by good words and fair speeches deceive the hearts of the simple.
Right, and that's
Simple, bro.
and that's our job too, as watchmen of Yahweh Shemel Shah, is to mark them, because there's a lot of men. The scriptures say evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse.
Right.
We're gonna see more of these men.
Deceiving and being deceived.
We're gonna see more of these things, and it's our job to mark these men, because there's, like we were saying earlier, there's younger brothers coming up under us that are not as skillful just yet.
Right.
And so when they see these different things, they gotta know, no, that's not it.
Right.
This is the proper way according to the 100% doctrine. We gotta be able to guide these men, and that comes through being occupied in our profession. That comes through diligence. That comes through consistency and repetition, like the elder apostle Gabar always says. Repetition is the father of skill.
Right.
When you repeat this, and Jake that says this is bland, that's because they don't understand what they're a part of. They don't understand the bigger picture. There's a reason why we go through certain precepts daily. There's a reason why we go through certain prophecies daily. There's a reason why we do these things that we do on a consistent basis. Because we're building muscle memory spiritually. We're building muscle memory mentally, so that we're capable vessels of Yahweh Shemel Shai.
Right. Hey, it say in Isaiah that to the law and to the testimony. It's about the testimony. If they speak not according to these things, there is no light in them, man. This is Isaiah 90, Psalm 19:7. The law of Yahweh is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. So those that's being deceived, those ones that's simple that's being deceived, the Lord ain't making them wise, man. Because Job 12:16 is deceived, and deceived is the Lord's. And the Lord said, He set up in Ezekiel 14:9. It said, if a prophet have spoken a thing and lied to the people, the Lord had to see that prophet.
Yep.
And them that's fallen after him, man.
Yep.
Hey, the scriptures is plain, man. And why, man, but Jake losing patience. Go back and read that what you had up again.
And if I could say this too, you know, and a lot of these wayward doctrines that's coming up, it's just playing on Jake's the patience that they've been losing. You know, the things that they've been questioning without coming out to the forefront with it, or seeking counsel for it, and they just it's playing to their evil suspicions.
And that flame that they had that went from a spark to a flame is going back to a spark. Till it's gonna be counted, gonna be put out, man. You got to
1 Corinthians 15 and 58. Therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, for as much as ye knew that your labor is not in vain in the Lord.
It said unmovable. In Colossians 1 and 26, it tell you that you're supposed to be rooted.
I was there, bro.
Read it.
That was next one also. In Colossians chapter 1, verse 26, even the mystery which have
No, Colossians 2 and 6.
Oh, 2 and 6. Okay.
Yeah,
Colossians 2 and 26.
2 and 6.
2 and 6, like it.
Yeah, verse 6 and 7.
As ye have therefore received Hamashiach, Yahushua the Lord, so walk ye in him,
Right.
rooted and built up in him, and established in the faith.
Established in the faith. That's unmovable.
Man, and
Because, hey, Salaki, what we that got 35 plus years, man. In what? Consistency.
that's what led to that longevity. And it's like the more and more we persevere in this truth, the more and more, you know, we're allowed to grow in this truth. The more you realize how important it is to establish yourself and how important it is to have a solid foundation. Because this is more than just knowing that you're Israelite.
Right.
Once you went past that, we understand that this is a thing of endurance. And we have, in order to endure, there's certain obstacles that's going to come your way that shouldn't shake you.
Right. Right. At all, man.
And you're supposed to be able to be that pillar for not only yourself, but the brothers around you. Because the scripture said some brothers have lesser faith. So you got to be that pillar for that brother or whoever's around you, not unshakable, so that he's able to say, oh, okay, that almost got me, but oh, okay, I see. Okay, I see it. Thank you. The water, Yahweh Shem Yahushua. You know, we have to be rooted. We have to be established.
I got one real quick. This is Luke chapter 22, and I'll start at 31. It says, and the Lord said, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan hath desired to have you, that he may sift you as wheat. But I have prayed for thee, that thy faith fail not. And when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren.
Hey, get that in that T, verse 31.
Got it.
Yeah.
Converted, strengthen thy brother.
So this is Luke 22.
Read NLT and NIV because they say they're a little different.
22 and 31 in the NLT. It says, Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift each of you like wheat. But I have pleaded in prayer for you, Simon, that your faith should not fail. So when you have repented and turned to me again, strengthen your brothers.
They say Satan has asked, man, that he may sift each and every one. Hey, was it Matthew 26 and 41? The Lord say, hey, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak, man. If you're not exercising your spirit, man, the flesh gonna overpower you, man.
Hey, and what did Satan do to Job? He said, Lord, surely I get him.
Right.
The Lord said, nah, do. And what did he say? The Lord didn't say to Satan, no, you can't touch him. No, you can't. The Lord
Take what he got, but don't touch it.
Don't touch him.
Yeah.
Don't touch him. And that's exactly what's happening to each and every one of us. And Satan said, surely him.
Right.
Surely him, Lord. I can get him. The Lord said, try him.
Go ahead and see.
Try him. But don't, you can't kill him. You can't touch him.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happening to us. We've been put through the fires, but the Lord has established us. He's allowed us to root ourselves in sound, proper doctrine.
You gotta be rooted, man. I gotta be rooted.
So that word strengthen in Luke 22 and 31 is sterizo, And it says to make stable, place firmly, set fast, fix, to strengthen, make firm, to render constant, confirm one's mind. It says to set fast an example, to turn resolutely in a certain direction, or figuratively to confirm. So once you're strengthened, that's what the Lord told Peter. Once you're strengthened, strengthen your brothers. Once you've been converted, strengthen your brothers. And until how we shall get back, it's always going to be some new brothers that's coming in.
Right.
That your experiences with your family, your experience with your job, your experience with your woman, the things that you studied about history, well, all of these things play into helping the next brother so that he can be strengthened and pass that down.
Right, so you get to the full measure of the statute, man, of Yahweh Shah, man.
You got to reset before you go.
Yeah, you got it.
You said confirming, this is Acts 14:22, confirming the souls of the disciples and exhorting them to continue in the faith, and that we must through much tribulation enter into the kingdom of the Heavenly Father.
And every day, as we go through these trials and tribulations, these adversities and afflictions, the Lord is leveling us up, man.
Yep.
You are being leveled every day, man. You're being leveled, man. You might not know it. You probably can't see it or feel it. Probably can't see it or feel it. But the Lord is leveling you up, man, every day, man.
And it's supposed to hurt, and it's supposed to feel like it's the battle that's going to take you out.
Right.
It's supposed, that's how you get stronger, bro. You get faced with a battle that you think is over with. When apostles tell us to learn to love the suffering, you know what that means? That means you have to learn to embrace the fact that you're gonna be tested to a point where you don't think you're gonna make it out, but you gotta trust the Lord in the midst of it.
Right.
And if you endure it, then you're able to look back and see the growth. But if you lose your patience and you tap out, you lose everything that the Lord started in you. Now, ultimately, it was already written to play out like that.
Mm-hmm.
But these scriptures are left aforetime for our learning, that in these times we can look at these things from our own personal journey and apply it.
Right.
There's many things that all brothers done went through that's like, man, shit. And the Lord put a spirit on you to endure. You look back and you say, Tawadi Habashim Shah, because I wouldn't have grew without it.
Yep. This is 2 Thessalonians 2:17. Comfort your hearts and establish you in every good word and work.
That's plain.
Yeah.
That's what it's about, establishing ourselves.
Right.
Because we understand that the journey is not going to get easier, it's going to get harder. You know, the straight gate is going to get even narrower. So it's important for us to establish ourselves now in this time of liberty.
Right.
The Lord has given us this time of grace, not the bullshit and lollygag like Jake like to say. You know, we should be partying.
Party and bullshit.
Come party with me. Instead of doing that foolishness, we should be rooting and grounding ourselves in proper doctrine, understanding what we're watching for, understanding what our mission is, understanding what the Lord requires of us, understanding what the requirements for salvation is. That's what's important for us now.
And I wish I said every plant that's not rooted will be plucked up, man. Every tree that's not rooted will be plucked up, man. You got it up.
Yeah, Colossians 1, starting at 23. If ye continue in the faith, grounded and settled,
Beautiful.
and be not moved away from the hope of the gospel,
Mm.
which ye have heard, and which was preached to every creature which is under heaven,
Mm.
whereof I, Paul, am made a minister, who now rejoice in my sufferings for you, and fill up that which is behind of the afflictions of Hamashiach.
See, it say fill up, going back to the full measure of the stature. Read it one more time from 23.
Verse 23, Colossians 1 and 23. If ye continue in the faith, grounded and settled,
Mm.
and be not moved away.
Hey, it say grounded and settled. You gotta get that word. You got it.
And be not moved away from the hope of the gospel, which ye have heard, and which was preached to every creature which is under heaven, whereof I, Paul, am made a minister, who will now rejoice in my sufferings for you, and fill up that which is behind of the afflictions of Hamashiach in my flesh for his body's sake,
See?
which is the church.
See, going back to Ephesians 4, man. The full measure of the stature. Hey, real quick, get Galatians 1 and 6.
Real quick, you
Yep.
said you wanted
Settled.
so settle is hadrios or hadrios, and it says sitting, sedentary, firm, immovable, steadfast. When you go into that word immovable, it says not able to be moved.
There's a tree rooted, man. That's a tree rooted, man. That's beautiful. The water. You got it.
Galatians 1:6.
Yep.
I marvel that ye are so soon removed from him that called you into the grace of Hamashiach unto another gospel.
You see? Removed into another gospel. That's being taught to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine by the slate of men. The 1 2 precepts together. You got it.
Which is not another,
Which is not another. Go ahead.
but there be some that trouble you and will pervert the gospel of Hamashiach.
You got it.
And that's what we see happening.
Yeah.
You know, here it is. He said, I would not that you were so soon removed. It's like the Lord ain't even bring down the MOTB yet.
Right.
It's light shit like the new covenant. Like what?
We even resisted the blood, yeah.
You so soon removed, and the Lord really ain't even show His hand like that.
Yeah, man.
Lord willing, we endure to the end, man. It's like that's why it's important to establish yourself now, because certain things shouldn't be able to move you. No. Now you studying, no.
Sin, the MOTB is sin?
What?
What?
And those are those seducing spirits.
Yeah, man.
And basically, in a roundabout way, it's basically a doctrine that's put out there to say, just go ahead and give up.
Yeah.
This is a good reason to stop right here. New covenant. That's you on the exit, you on the
Yeah.
highway, and you see the exit. You have to follow them exits.
New covenant, right?
New covenant. 2/3 are gonna be in the kingdom, and then you just pass by the exit, and then you got that one jig that's like they put their signal on, and they just let me see what they get off. And those are the things that are placed in the path to make you get off the expressway. We on a highway, Lord willing, to the kingdom of heaven, and then you see all these exits with these big ass billboards, New Covenant, MOTB is sin, and then Jake get off the expressway to go investigate some shit that was really just set up to get you off the highway.
And GPS say go straight.
Yeah.
Go straight. Go straight. Jake wanna veer off, man.
You know, and you doing the GPS, and then you make that wrong turn, and that shit send you 30, 40 minutes to get back on the path you was already on.
Yeah, man.
That's what happened when Jake dived into these doctrines.
Now you done passed about 3-4 parties. It's a barbecue going on.
Yep.
You know, lost the expressway, just like that.
Yep. And as soon as you remove, it's hard to come back. It's hard to reestablish yourself in certain things, man. Because once you leave off, then you begin to be doubtful. If I get this real quick.
Yep. I want you to hold that in Galatians. Let me read it again, 6-9. You got it.
This is Sirach, or Ecclesiastes chapter 18 and verse 7. When a man have done, then he beginneth. And when he leaveth off, then he shall be doubtful.
Yep.
And when you begin this work, that's when you begin to toil in the truth. That's when you begin a good work. You know, you begin to build up your soul. You begin to establish yourself in Yahweh Shem Yahushua. But when you leave off, you begin to be doubtful. You begin to doubt everything that you once believed in. Well, maybe I was tripping. Maybe the Lord wasn't coming back. Maybe the MOTB wasn't the CHIP. You know, maybe I was tripping. Maybe you begin to be doubtful when you leave off. It's hard to reestablish yourself.
That's why being steadfast and having that foundation, the scriptures talk about with all that getting understanding what you're a part of, and understanding that with patience we wait for that day of Yahweh's return. But at the same time, there's a mission in place. Right. And all of these wayward doctrines have nothing to do a lot of times with the mission that's at place. It's just it's something that's put out there to take you off that path. And that's why having a sure foundation, like when the brother brought out Colossians 1:23, that word for grounded is themelio, and it says to lay the foundation, to found, to make stable, establish. Now it says in the Strong's definition, to lay a basis for an example, literally erect or figuratively consolidate. Now when you go into that word consolidate, it says this: make something physically stronger or more solid. And that's what the Lord is doing. He's creating that foundation, and then you go through certain things to make that foundation stronger.
Trial, tribulation.
But you can't lose patience, because what you're doing is you're stopping your refining process
Right.
in the middle of the process.
Right.
How about the Lord saying, do it to the end? It's supposed to hurt. It's supposed to feel like I can't take it no more. They got that one little view on the internet, I can't take it no more. It's supposed to feel like that.
Yeah.
So that when you look back at this, you're going to appreciate the kingdom because of the refining process you had to go through. Because it's always supposed to feel like you ain't got nothing left in the tank. Just so the Lord can show you how much more you do got in the tank if you stay in it.
Hey, and the Lord is grooming the hopeful men to be leaders. The Lord is grooming these women out here, the ones that's following it diligently, hey, to be leaders in the kingdom under your men, so you can tell them servants, hey, yeah, he like it like this, he want it like this, you need to do this. That's leadership for men and women, man. The Lord is grooming leaders, man. The elect men and women are leaders, man. Let me read this. Sirach 37:14. For a man's mind, going to these guys that want to come up with all these different, these sins, the MOTB and new covenant, all this and that. For a man's mind is sometime one to tell him more than 7 watchmen that sit above in the high tower. And we have 4 spiritual fathers, and we have a lot of spiritual uncles. So it say for a man's mind is sometime one to tell him more than 7 watchmen that sit above in the high tower. We got apostles and elder bishops and elders that's been giving us sound doctrine. If anybody going outside of that, they going off, man.
Yeah.
But the Lord got to give you that spirit
You got to see it, yeah.
to see that.
I got one real quick. This is Titus 1, and you know where I'm going. 15 reads, unto the pure, all things are pure.
Right.
But unto them that are defiled and unbelieving is nothing pure. But even their mind and conscience is defiled.
See, and Peter said that the Lord was going to stir up our pure minds. Not defile, pure minds by the way of remembrance, man.
And that's the importance of being renewed by the spirit of your mind and establishing yourself.
Right.
Because when you establish yourself, you build a mental fortitude. Like the brother read in Sirach, your mind is going to tell you more than 7 watchmen. They're coming from the left, they're coming from the right. What about this? What about that? When you constantly occupied in prophecy, you constantly occupied in the scriptures, you're not going to, them outside forces, your mind is not going to be able to penetrate that fortitude that you've established.
Right.
Because your mind is always going to tell you, the scriptures say, the heart is wicked, who can know it?
Right.
Your mind is always trying to tell you something. You are vain, evil suspicions,
Right.
constantly.
Right.
And it's a part of the battle, but it's
Right.
constantly beating at us. And in order to deflect that, we have to build up a mental fortitude which comes to staying occupied in prophecy, staying consistent.
Hey, Proverbs 3:5, the Lord say, trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not to thy own understanding, right? In Jeremiah 3:15, the Lord say, he gave us men that shall feed us according to his heart, to his mind. Well, these are the 7 watchmen. The apostles of Great Millstone, the elder bishops and elders, these are the 7 watchmen, which mean completion. These are the men that's giving you everything that you need. But the Lord got to give you that spirit that I saw in Revelations 3:18 to see it. Because, well, it says Proverbs 29:18, where there is no vision, the people perish, man.
Right. Because there's a government that's being established at the
Right.
end of the day. And the government that the Lord is establishing is starting from our elders, apostles, of Great Millstone down. That's the government, the ordering of the kingdom that we're
Right.
seeing right before our eyes.
Right, man. But the Lord got to give you the spirit to see it, to accept it. Read that again in Galatians. Oh, you had something else?
No, I'm hoping Galatians.
Okay, go ahead, read that.
Galatians 1:6. I marvel that ye are so soon removed from him that called you into the grace of Hamashiach unto another gospel, which is not another, but But there be some that trouble you.
Hey, you know how the scripture say, marvel not if your girl trespass against you or a friend or somebody.
Yeah.
Paul said, I'll read it again.
I marvel that ye are so soon removed.
He said, I marvel because it's the truth. What got you wavering? This it. You got it.
I marvel that ye are so soon removed from him that called you into the grace of Hamashiach unto another gospel, which is not another.
Which is not another. That's the Lord deceiving you. The Lord using. Go ahead, you got it.
But there be some that trouble you and will pervert the gospel of Hamashiach.
Because you was never established. You was never rooted. You got it.
But though we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel unto you than that which we have preached unto you.
Did an angel come and tell you that the MOTB is sin? It's
And you was telling you that that angel did.
right.
Yeah, what did the
You
Lord
rebuke that angel and then we have us,
The Lord said, you don't listen to an angel, you definitely listen to nobody saying something different than what he said in Watchmen is saying. But a man's mind want to tell him more than said in Watchmen. These are the ones the Lord set up, they watching everything. Who told you to go into words? To go into the blue letter? Who told you to go into the Hebrew and the Greek? They didn't tell you that. Yohana, GOCC, ISUPK, none of them never told you about none of that. They never told you to go look up maps. Go study the history. Go do this. Go do that. Go do your own diligent search. But your mind wanted to tell you to do something different. Go ahead.
But though we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel unto you than that which we have preached unto you, let him be accursed.
Right.
As we said before, so say I now again. If any man preach any other gospel unto you than that ye have received, let him be accursed.
That's it.
Now, real quick, the same, I want to grab it in the NLT. Galatians 1:6, I'm shocked that you are turning away so soon from Yahweh Shah, who called you to himself through the loving mercy of Hamashiach. You are following a different way that pretends to be the good news. But it's not the good news at all.
Heavy, man.
You are being fooled by those who deliberately twist the truth concerning Mashiach.
And that's the thing about these wayward doctrines. They're deceitful with gospels, man. Like how is that a gospel that we're in the new covenant? How is that a part of the gospel?
Like they said, Romans 16 and 18, by good words and fast speeches.
Oh, the MOTB is sin. How is that the gospel, the good news? That would mean that we all got the MOTB.
Right.
How is that the good news?
Because they say, in Ecclesiastes 7, everybody does sin. Oh, what's the other verse say? If any man say he haven't sinned, he a liar. You got it.
Yes, I mean that's the thing though.
Man,
You got it, bro.
that was it on that.
You got another one?
That was
You
it.
got one?
Nah, I don't have
That was it. It was something that you wanted to get. Dealing with that occupying. It was something else.
You know what? Yeah.
We read the one in what was that?
one.
Matthew.
No,
Luke 22.
Yeah, Luke 2. Yeah, we read that.
So I wanted to get that one too. And hold up, let me get this. Because going back to the point that we started the lesson of being consistent in patience, we all got that mission. And that mission is to remain diligent with whatever measure we have.
Right.
Now, Ak brought it out, Luke 19:13, and he called his 10 servants and delivered them 10 pounds and said unto them, occupy till I come. We all have different talents, different measures, right?
Right.
This is what the Lord said when you go into the NLT, it says this, before he left, he called together 10 of his servants and divided among them 10 pounds of silver, saying, invest this for me while I am gone. So until the Lord get back, we are to invest our talents, which is being occupied. Certain brothers have certain gifts. The Lord set up different gifts in different brothers to bring out certain things for the flock to be fed. And your video may be that one or two sentences in one of your videos may be that spark through the spirit of Yahweh by Shemal Shah that pushed that next brother through that week. And that's a part of our mission through the spirit of Yahweh by Shemal Shah until Mashiach get back. And when you occupied in that, things move faster naturally, just like when you at work. When you focused on what's in front of you, you put your phone in your pocket and you just lock into what you're working on, before you know it, you look at the time, it's lunchtime, and then before you know it, it's time to go home.
Right.
Because you occupied in what you dealing with. Davos is coming this week.
Right.
That's brothers get to licking their chops and rubbing their hands like Birdman.
Come.
You know how many clips and lessons coming up out of this?
Yeah, man.
Because prophecy is always moving. The Lord is always showing us something new. And we can't keep up with it all. So as watchmen, whatever post you at, the Lord give you certain things, you filter it through the scriptures, and you deliver it to the flock through the spirit of Yahweh by Shemal Shah. And when you get occupied in that mission, everything else moves accordingly. Because that's the mission at hand through the spirit of Yahweh by Shemal Shah.
That was it. Nah, that was it, bro.
Hey, so with that, Lord willing, Adawan Ratazadis was edifying. With that, we want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakah Kadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasher Allah, and the sincere salutation to Yawakim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwaf, who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. Shalom. Wa Abba Babal.
Wow, for tuning in. The Yahweh Shema shall continue to bless you in your houses. Stay prayed up. Hey, wow, for tuning in. Shalom.
Shalom. Call light now by Shemal Shah.
Yahweh Shema shall.